also editing
Use your
SciShow
words.
2 times speed.
Oh,
So
edit
So
SciShow.
Yeah.
Maybe I should add a vlog with it at 2 times speed.
I think,
Yikes.
yeah.
What
We're
is
live
the
now.
hotkey for that?
How does my
The
tropical
hotkey?
shirt look on
Yeah.
I mean, if you just press the play,
Beautiful.
or what is it, L,
Yeah.
multiple times, you keep speeding up.
Oh, sorry.
You can't tell because Stefan's butt is in the way.
I was
How
gonna
many
get a
burps do you have to edit out all the time?
They keep
I-
the burps in.
I found myself burping a lot, and I had like 3.
When you burp, when they burp with a peak.
If you turn away from the mic,
Yeah.
when you burp.
I've
Yeah, move away from the
yeah.
mic when I burp.
Perfect.
They just see me like burping off camera.
Amy has acid reflux, because
Yeah, so get ready. Oh, thanks, Hank. That was a nice reaction to that.
that was my reaction the first 10 times. So this you can have like right in
Welcome
there.
to Holy Fucking Science.
And then if you have to move, just push it out the way.
Oh,
Fuck
wow.
yeah. This is another movie I watched a lot of times.
A movie.
Oh my
Yeah,
Another
I want to
movie.
be a move, yeah. Can I be super close?
God.
Is this allowed?
I've never seen it.
It's so good.
Stephen, will you help me with
Oh, yeah.
It's
I'm
falling
not
over.
sure.
Coming up
Oh.
on it.
Yeah, it's creepy. It's creeping.
So many
You
viral
rotate
bits in the last
so the
few
Yeah.
edges on that. And then
So
you try and
close.
twist the
Hank, you're like singing that too well.
It's
I'm like,
really
that's
good.
not. He's practiced.
past you as
Yes,
well.
sir. Oh.
That's what you're supposed to do.
Yes.
Cool.
Wow, how much do these lights cost?
Not that much.
When you need to be in
It looks really
$100,000.
Ooh, what? How much is a million cents?
That's still
$10,000? that right?
100,000.
What are we talking about?
A million pennies?
How much is it?
A
Nope,
million
that's
pennies.
10,000. You were right.
Yeah.
Oh.
Is. So it's not that much.
Wait, okay, here, I'm gonna-
$10,000?
Maybe
It feels wrong
100,000
for some
pennies?
reason,
Feels
but I
like
think
too
that's
much.
right.
No, it's definitely.
No.
My first thought was 100,000, but that's not right.
No, it's not.
It
One
costs
more.
15,000.
Gotta go one more.
It's 100,000.
15,000?
No.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
10,000.
Yep.
For the mics, yeah.
Yeah.
This is weird. I have to like look around the mic.
Can we cut the music?
If we must.
If we must.
You want
Yeah.
things that you want. Jessi, you can have a
You got it
beer.
right.
Sorry. Do you want that?
Oh,
Hank?
no.
I got one.
Oh, okay. Stefan, you want a beer?
I grabbed one.
Okay. Well, I want
As soon as I got down here, I was like,
Yeah,
I
what are the
need
rules
a
on grabbing a
beer.
second beer during the
totally good.
Encouraged.
And then that's also like a really nice like.
Should I not like even have this? With
No, it's
No,
okay.
you're fine.
It's a good transition into talking about our sponsor.
Yeah, when you crack it open.
Oh.
Big Sky Brewery. So if we can go from left to right and just, or I guess right to left on your perspective, but if you just tell me what you had for breakfast, talking into the mic.
Oh, okay. I had Einstein bagels for the 3rd day in a row.
Would you go out next time?
I don't know. They're close, and I know
Right
they know
across
my
the
order.
street is the stuff that's good.
What?
Stuff that's
Oh,
good.
no, they're so
Broadway?
dense.
I love
Oh, it is really dense.
They're
right?
so
Yeah.
dense.
And they're big. They're big and dense.
Yeah.
Is this good?
Yeah.
Tell me more about the big denseness.
I had granola and yogurt.
Oh.
Whoa.
What kind of granola?
Blueberry flax.
Blueberry flax.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, getting those
Did you
flax seeds in.
Valley?
That's actually an impression I used to do as a child.
Yeah.
Valley girl.
I had bacon toast.
Whoa.
Oh, yeah.
Bacon's pretty deluxe.
I was gonna lie and say that I had a naked egg taco from Taco Bell. I didn't.
Why would you lie?
Because it doesn't exist.
Oh. Is that a new item that's coming?
Yeah, it's coming out.
A
You have to
naked
touch
egg
the
Yeah,
taco.
the taco shell is an egg.
No.
But it's gonna be in. It's
Whoa.
only gonna be in a
That's
shell
so
like they
oily.
did with the
What did I just
Doritos.
That was a
No,
taco.
no,
Put that on
no.
the taco.
Naked.
No, it's gonna be like in a cardboard sheath.
Oh, gross. Like
But you can't eat the cardboard.
No, but have you ever had the Doritos tacos?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're like
those
so
are-
flimsy. See?
But I guess that answers the
holding
question: what came first, the chicken or the egg?
Cardboard.
the chicken came first for the chicken taco.
Oh my god!
Oh,
Good
yeah.
joke,
They had
Caitlin.
There's like a yolk there and everything.
Something
know
seven
it's
says LOL.
I used to work
joke.
at
Oh,
Wildfires,
wow.
how they store the eggs. I work with patties and you just stick them in a warmer. I bet that's what they do.
Ew, yikes.
Anyway.
Can we move on?
I think
from
we
that?
Yeah, I'm actually gonna move your mic a little further in.
I know,
I feel like
in
you're
my
probably.
head
I
now.
know.
So yeah, so we're
Yeah,
live
reach.
streaming, and they just start here for all of it,
Oh,
and
then
then
talk
we're
to you.
shooting.
Yeah, yeah.
And so
Okay.
we'll like cut it a little bit too. So if you're like, wait, I need to look this up, cut this part out.
Okay.
We'll cut that part out.
What'd you have for
I-
breakfast, Jess?
I had
Just make it up.
I think this morning I had a really good breakfast. I think I ate it at like noon though. It was a slice of ham and an egg and fried potatoes. It was a really good one.
Hearty.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Ruby's Diner style.
Ready to go.
Yeah.
I lied, I actually just ate butterflies. For breakfast, I had 100% butterflies.
Your stomach.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the spot. No, I don't know how do we start it. I didn't actually eat butterflies.
Will you clap and do
Oh,
a white
sure,
ball,
my
too?
ball. Okay.
Wait, how do we know which order we're going? What are we
You
doing?
decide. You
Okay,
decide.
I need more.
All right, here's the Y ball.
No, Hank will kind of run the show.
I'll run the show.
And then, but also, yeah, like, so you'll each present your topic that you came prepared to present, but also, like, feel free to, like, interrupt each other
Oh,
and go off
please, yeah.
on tangents and make jokes and stuff. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Are you nervous?
Yeah.
Oh.
No, I'm less nervous now that I'm sitting here.
Hello. This podcast is not for children. This is a podcast in which four friends get together and we try to amaze each other with facts about the universe or how we found out those facts about the universe enough that someone else in the podcast will say, "Holy fucking science!" Hey, yeah, really good job, everybody. I didn't even tell you guys that was going to happen, but you figured it out. Today, we're joined by Jessi.
Hi.
Jessi, host of Animal Wonders and owner of Animal Wonders.
Yeah. Yep.
And
That's
also host of Special Kids.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Holy Fucking Science.
Thank
Really
you.
good to have you.
Thanks for having me again.
What are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about something that has plagued us for
Yes.
the last month. I think it's only like 2 or 3 weeks, but it feels like it's been
No,
months.
It's been months. It has
And
been months.
yeah, we're talking about the really intense wildfires. Pfizer?
Pfizer. It's that drug
Pfizer.
company.
That
They've
sounds
gone
right.
nuts, going drunk. Pfizer. They had way too much to drink, and now they're raising all their prices.
Wildfires.
Explosive.
Yeah, we're talking about wildfires. And so we've got a bunch of people from Missoulians, people living in Missoula, been breathing some smoke a lot lately. Also got Julia Mays. How's it going?
I'm doing very well, thank you, Hank. How are you?
Good. And have you ever been on the show?
Yes,
You
but
have.
you were not. It was
Okay.
not. It was a different time.
Okay, good. I'm glad I didn't just forget,
No.
which is completely possible. But yeah, thank you for coming again.
Thank you.
And Amy is here as well. Hi.
Hi.
Amy and Julia work for VidCon, making things happen.
We sure do.
And this is your first time.
Yes.
How are you feeling?
I'm green as can be. But I feel well prepared, I think.
Did you get a really good topic? That's a very
Well,
exciting.
it's something I really like a lot. So,
Oh,
yeah.
Did you have something prepped? Did you know what, like, as soon as you found the topic, were you like, I'm in, I'm done, I don't need to look at this?
Kind of. It was one of the ones that I wanted to do.
Okay.
But yeah, I got to it through a roundabout way.
Well,
and
we're
then
gonna
it
talk.
felt right.
We're gonna talk about that when we start to talk about it. But first, we have to decide who goes first. And since we're studying wildfires today, we're studying fire. I want the person to go first to be the person who smoked most recently, and the person who goes last is the one who smoked least recently. Oh.
I feel like that's me that smoked most recently.
Probably. That would
Yeah.
also be my guess.
Yeah.
When was that time you smoked?
Earlier today, this afternoon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you a daily smoker?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes I see you walking home.
Mm.
Taking a long drive.
Chilling out at the intersection, leaning on the pole, with your leather jacket on.
Yeah, almost none of that has ever happened.
Okay. All right. Now, when was the last time Amy smoked a cigarette?
A
We're gonna
cigarette?
be specific about it's going to be cigarettes because no one on Holy Fun Science has ever smoked anything illegal ever.
Probably like last summer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So not this summer. So like a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
Jessi?
College.
Okay. Wow.
I don't even,
You're not sure what year that
like,
was?
what was that, like 10 or 15 years ago?
Okay. When did you graduate from college?
2007 was
Okay.
my third college I went to.
Wait. So when did you graduate from the college you smoked in?
2002.
Okay. I also graduated from college in 2002.
Okay.
So you just went to college 3 times.
Yes.
That sounds expensive. The last time I smoked tobacco, but I never smoked a cigarette. I smoked a cigar at my cousin's wedding, and it's the only time I've ever done tobacco, and it was dope. I got
Really? Oh, I
so
hate
high.
Cigars are the worst.
I never know what to do with that.
I was on fire.
You feel like a fat cat.
I smoked like a quarter of the cigar, and I felt like I was on cocaine. I was
sweet.
jazzed.
Did you inhale?
I just put it in my mouth and let it tingle my mucous membranes. As they say.
Yeah, you talk about cigars in a weird way.
But I think that was probably in 2006 or so. So
last.
you're last. Yeah.
All right. I mean, I'm not ashamed.
No, yeah. Good. No judgment, by the way. I'm sorry if it's made you feel like, okay, now who's the oldest person? Who's the worst of us among us?
I think we might all be even. I mean, besides the smoking cigarettes, but like we've all inhaled smoke.
Oh yeah.
Like
well, no, I just put it in my
good
mouth and let
point.
it tingle my mucous membranes, as previously noted.
The wildfires probably don't get you all
That's
tingly.
No.
Yeah.
Oh man. I
They
never
mess with
smoked.
those mucous membranes, though.
They do. God, my nose hurts so bad.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Julie gets to go first.
Okay. I have to be honest. I had a little trouble deciding what to talk about when I knew the topic of wildfires because I grew up in the Pacific Northwest where there are regular wildfires.
Yeah.
And I've lived here in the Rocky Mountain West where there are regular wildfires for almost 10 years. And I feel like a lot of the info about wildfire is sort of common knowledge for people in my community. So I didn't know, like, is this an interesting fact or is this something that everybody knows?
Mhm.
Like everything I learned about wildfires, I was like, I already knew that, but I don't know that everyone knows all the things. But I did find a thing that I did not know any details about and had only heard scant tales of.
I'm getting all excited
Yeah,
here.
and
Like,
so
I feel
I
that.
decided that it's like probably the scariest thing that exists.
Oh. Wait.
So
We need to prepare a little
Makes heart rates up.
Yeah.
Okay, so I feel like a lot of people have heard generally that large scale wildfires can create their own weather systems.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because there's like big differences in temperature over a short amount of time, or they're like covering big areas or whatever. So there's like crazy wind patterns and, like giant clouds form from the smoke plumes.
Yeah, I saw one of those at the Little Peak fire the other day, where like it turned from smoke into cloud
Yes.
as it pushed the hot air up into the water started coming
And
out.
they're
It was like
deceptive.
beautiful.
Yeah,
but,
because they look like regular cumulus clouds,
Yeah.
but you can tell if it's a smoke cloud, pyrocumulus,
Ooh.
if they're like actually gray. So there's like there's a clear grayness to a regular cloud, which is made of water. But if it's made of smoke, then it's like dingy. You can tell that it's smoke. But so the other thing that sort of, this is what freaked me out, that happens in wildfire is what's known as a fire whirl. And so these are sometimes referred to as fire tornadoes, but that's not a good name for them because the top doesn't actually meet a cloud. It's just sort of like an individual I'm doing a lot of hand gestures, which is bad for a podcast, but it's just like an individual tube of fire. And so
Just one tube.
Is it a burning ring of fire?
Yes.
What would happen if I
technically.
fell down into it?
You would be burned alive, probably. They're very hot. But there's also like, there's some that you could probably run in and out of because they're quite narrow, but there's other ones that get really wide across.
So I ran quickly in and out of a burning ring of fire, and I was
Yes.
okay, but somewhat singed.
Probably didn't feel great.
Okay.
So they form because there are wind eddies. So there's like a swirl of wind that happens, and these usually happen over something that has already burned. So you're in like a grazeland or a pasture fire or a forest fire that has completely flattened big spaces of area. So then a wind eddy happens, and it's just like stuff is swirling around and it's sort of picking up debris, and then it picks up both heat and residual gases from the embers that are existing in the ground and whatever's just been recently burned, and that reignites. And so and then the wind gets faster and the heat gets hotter, and so it turns into this crazy fire world.
How fast do these go? Like, could they pick up things with them, like
Yes,
mice?
Definitely. So there's like a whole
I'm worried about the mice.
more than mice. So there's a whole scale of fire worlds, and they can be anywhere from like 2 feet across to like hundreds of feet across, depending on how much space and how much power is there. So the small ones can pick up, like, they're picking up ash and embers and sort of like reigniting treetops far away because the wind can carry that up to a mile away, actually. But then there are giant ones that are picking up like cattle and rooftops and like straight up twister fucked up nonsense.
way.
And like bodies get picked up and they just like toss them.
What do you say, bodies? You mean
Yeah,
like
wait.
dead humans?
Are you
What?
saying the bodies were already there?
Is
like-
it Helen Hunt? Like she tied herself to the wellhead, and then it turned out that it was a fire world, not a twister.
And she's
She's like
She
barbecue.
did.
That's very
Yeah.
sad.
Yeah.
I'm watching a video of a fire world right now.
It's crazy, right?
It
It's like
is so
comic
gritty.
Well, it's
So
like
is it like detached from the larger fires? So
Yes.
this is just like
it's
happening
all little-
on its own
It happens
after the show.
afterward, after the show happens.
So
No
lesson
fucking
learned:
way.
don't hang out around fires because you could get caught in a fire world.
Yeah, unless they're like,
No.
you know, like
It's
damp in the
red.
area that's already been burned down or something.
Okay.
And so like there's also degrees of like how quickly and where they move. So some of them might be stationary and they might not do anything. You can just watch them and film them like that Australian dude. Or
This is what we're watching right now.
you can I have what's the guy's name? Because it's a really amazing video. Chris Tangy.
Yeah, Chris Tangy.
Tangey. That's the
Can you
good
say that with an
video of
Australian
the fire
accent
world.
though instead?
There's almost no speaking in it.
No, but
Oh!
say Chris Tangy's name in an Australian accent.
No, I couldn't.
I
Not
couldn't
possibly.
possibly.
I couldn't possibly. No, I can't do it on command. You have to like catch me by surprise to do an Australian accent. So some of them can be fairly stationary, and you can just watch them on the horizon and be like, "God damn it, I hate that thing." Or some of them,
This is bad and should not be.
yeah, get it away from me. But sometimes they move really quickly and can just like book it down a hillside, and then they're just like careening through more debris and more forest.
They need to
and
put
keeping the
this in
fire.
like a movie, like one of the action
Right?
something or other, like you're being chased by
How is
a
this-
fire
yeah.
tornado.
Yeah,
And
because
then there's a shark in it.
Right.
Well,
Yeah,
right,
cattle.
right, right.
Sarah in the comments says mice NATO.
I think that would be a tornado made out of
Yes.
mice, though, right?
Yeah, but like
Yeah.
burned
Oh,
mice.
God.
Angry mice. That
Yeah,
would
the
be a
hot
that would
mice.
be a
Yeah.
fun tornado.
Yeah,
No.
I don't like that.
What disgusting aftermath.
Yeah,
that
and
would be.
they can
Oh,
last. There's also
smell.
a scale of severity on how long they last. So sometimes they're just like a couple seconds, and you watch it, and it's like seeing a dirt devil,
Mhm.
or they last for like an hour, and it's just there, and that would be all the length you need for a feature-length film.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I feel like I read a Nora Roberts book that's kind of like this once, but I don't think that was actual world.
Oh, world.
Yeah.
So that's my thing. I'm terrified of fireworks now.
And you're going to Australia soon.
I'm going to Australia soon. They actually just had, this is like maybe a little too soon, but they had some pretty crazy fires earlier this year during their fire season, and like many reports of big fireworks in their forest fire season this year. So I think maybe because they have like more flat open land than we do here.
And it seems to be sort of a brush fire kind of
kind
of thing.
Right.
Like once the brush burns. That's really
But they're
neat.
still.
And
They're really pretty because they're like
They're
there's
gorgeous,
like that glowing
honestly.
color at the bottom, and they get like this black swirl on the top. It almost looks like dark purple. I don't know. It's
right,
just,
like the embers are still burning up there.
It's like this
And so
cool gradient.
it
of
throws up
color.
this
And
like
it'll
glowing
sort of, like,
tornado. I want to
fade
see it
and
at
then-
nighttime.
I know, God.
But-
But why isn't there a movie? Like,
It should
That
be.
is incredible to me.
there's so
Of
many
all the-
regular Twister movies.
How
Lord
could you-
knows.
I've seen
How could you
Twister
have like a
1,000
murder
times.
mystery that in which the person kills somebody with a fire whirl?
I don't know if a person can control a fire whirl in any way.
Well,
Well, it's just heat and
Just
gas.
like push them in.
yeah, or
Oh,
kill him
sure.
first and then be like, oh, there's a fire whirl.
Put them in there to
Right, it's more
destroy
of a
the
body
evidence.
disposal method.
Yeah, I'll buy that. I'll
Yeah.
take body disposal.
Because I don't feel like I can control. Wow, it's getting crazy now. It's getting
Bring it. It
Wow.
looks almost like it's
moving fast.
Ooh.
Sorry, everybody. I'm watching a video and talking about it. It's like a reaction. It's like one of those reaction channels where people just like put their tiny picture in the bottom of the corner and they're like, "Hey, here I am watching this video. Yeah, that's wow, neat." Anyhow, thank you for the fascinating topic.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you for letting me like
Fucking science.
air my grievances.
Yeah, not so much that you find it amazing. You just hate it. You
I
hate it a lot.
hate it so much.
What? No. Okay, I thought we were done, but why do you hate it so much? It's beautiful.
Because I don't want it here.
On
Around.
Earth?
Kind of.
It's
yeah.
not around. It's in Australia. It's a long way
They
away.
have them here though.
No. Well, that's why we live in the city.
Sure, I guess.
They
I'll
come
take
for us.
momentary solace in my quote unquote city.
Good lord.
The apocalypse is coming, and it's made of fire tornadoes.
Mm-hmm.
no. That sounds really terrifying. It does.
It does. It looks beautiful. Oh, neat. Anyway, hey, Amy.
Hey.
You smoked a
Okay.
year ago.
I smoked a year ago. So first let me tell you that story. We're standing on the porch. No, just kidding. So my topic is the 1988 fires in Yellowstone National Park.
Oh yeah, good
And
one.
Yellowstone National Park is one of my favorite places on the planet, so I'm very excited to talk about it. And I was very scared of these fires. I was born in 1990, so I did not live through this. But every
Oh
time,
my God.
yeah, it was stop, Hank. Don't let's not have that argument. Not the age
It's not an
argument.
argument. It's not an argument. It's just a feeling that I can't stop having when people were born in 1990.
I know.
We should
they're
hire a
sorry.
bunch of old guys next time. Would that be better?
That make you feel better?
Yeah, Hank,
Not
would that be
they're not
better?
nearly as much fun and capable as you folks.
I just
Bless
feel I
you.
feel sorry for the fact that I was born in 1990.
Well,
which is,
you better.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so my family would go on vacation there every year, so it has a particularly special place in my heart. So the fires of 1988, they're pretty crazy, pretty famous. Basically, context, background. In 1988, spring was super wet, and then that led into like literally the driest month on record in June. So Yellowstone is covered in basically lodgepole pine forests, like covered in them, which is essentially like a tinderbox because lodgepole pine are like very,
Big matchsticks.
yes, big matchsticks. Like they literally reproduce from fire. One of their two types of pine cones only unseals at very high temperatures.
Oh,
Fun fact.
I wish I had two types of pine cones.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? They have male and female pine cones. Cool.
I
Little
just have the one
tidbit I learned.
kind.
But anyways, another thing they do is they, when their lower branches aren't getting enough light, they self-prune, so they just drop their branches,
Mm.
and then they're really dense and their roots are really shallow, so they blow over really easily. So basically, there's lots of forest debris already, and this is a pretty mature forest, and then the driest month in years and years and years. So tinderbox, right? But on top of that, Yellowstone National Park had a natural management policy for or plan for wildfires. So that essentially meant like if it's caused by nature, let it burn unless it's threatening structures or human life or endangered species. If it's human, if it's started from humans, then we'll suppress it immediately. But so they've had lots of fire seasons, like no problem. They go out themselves. It's actually really good for the park's ecology. But so fires start in June. They're like, okay, this is like not a big deal. We're used to this. Some rain's gonna come in July probably. July comes, no rain, and the fires.
Familiar.
Yep. So the fires, more and more fires are starting. Lots of the fires are joining together and creating these like crazy massive fires that are moving at like 2 miles an hour, which is super fast for a fire. And they're like Julia. Sorry, that doesn't sound
I'm
nice.
glad to hear that 2 miles an hour is fast for a fire.
Yeah,
Now I
it's
feel much
fast.
safer with regards to this fire tornado thing.
Yeah. But they're also doing things like Julia mentioned. They're like throwing embers like a mile and a half ahead of the fire and starting new spot fires, and then
they join together.
And then they join
with their
together,
powers
and
combined, they
it's-
put their rings together and become we are Captain Fire.
Exactly. So it's becoming a problem. So late July, they're like, okay, we're gonna start just suppressing all fires. Fuck our natural management plan.
That's what I always say.
So basically, these fires are growing and growing and growing. Like they're having to close roads. They're having to like soak all their structures to make sure they don't get burned down.
All the buffalo are on fire.
Well, actually, that's a surprising fact is that the animals are actually doing pretty well.
Well, they was only going 2 miles an hour.
Yeah, well, but the biggest issue was smoke inhalation, actually. But yeah, so in August, late August, so these have been like drumming up tons of media attention. Everyone's freaking out. Everyone's like,
I remember.
yeah, Yellowstone is dead. Like it's never gonna be the same. No one's coming here ever again. Everything's dead. Which obviously was not true, media. But
Lame street media.
But anyways, so all this is happening late August, August 20th. They deem it Black Saturday.
Oh,
Because in one day alone, 150,000 acres burned.
who deemed it? Was it the lame street media?
The forest folk?
The forest folk, the children of the
The
forest.
children of the forest. They've been around all over
Children,
the
let me
place.
tell you about Black Saturday.
Yeah,
lot.
so
Yeah, that's a lot.
it's a lot. It literally like doubled the acreage of the entire fire.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and so people are like freaking out even more. Firefighters can basically not do anything for these fires because the drought has made them behave so insanely. So eventually these fires just ended up needing to be snuffed out by snow, which didn't happen until September 11th.
I'm worried that that's what's going what's going to happen this year
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
Western Montana. Like it's just hot and dry, and now it's cool and dry, and the fires are like, I don't care, it's still dry.
Exactly, and they were saying, like, I was reading that a lot of the sort of like gimmies in firefighting, like fires tend to lie down at night, quote unquote, which is like higher humidity, lower temperatures make it easier to contain a fire. You make more progress at night. Not happening in 1988 in Yellowstone. It was like still really hot and dry, like no progress, still windy. They like couldn't bring bulldozers in, which was probably for the better in the end in terms of like, you know, fucking up the ground and stuff like that. But because the ground was so unstable, they couldn't bring them in the first place to sort of build fire lines. But yeah, and then the weather was just like tons of thunderstorms, no rain. All the worst things that could possibly happen were happening in 1988 in Yellowstone. Not everywhere else, but well, maybe. But anyway. But the coolest part about all of this is that everyone was all The coolest part is that everyone was like, well, shit, our like favorite national park is totally fucked. And turns out it wasn't, because Yellowstone totally thrives on wildfire. So like, even during the fires, they were reporting like new growth in burned areas that had been like very recently burned.
Hell yeah.
The next season, they had like record attendance and like a super lush plant year. Like most of the animal plant or populations, animal plants.
Most of the
most of the animal factories in Yellowstone. Most of the animal populations like weren't affected significantly. Like streams were okay, like totally fine. Anyways, so awesome. But aside from that, I have some really cool facts to share about the fire itself. So here are the numbers.
You are like
just
pummeling us
Ooh.
with info.
I just love this stuff. So, okay. These fires, 51 in total, 9 caused by humans, 42 caused by lightning. So 51 is an insane number. To give you context, we are having one of the worst fire seasons ever in Montana right now, and there are 27 active fires burning. There were 51 in just Yellowstone National Park in the summer of 1988. Insane. We
Didn't Start the Fire, by the way, came out in 1989, so we can assume that this was a completely inspired.
Yes, 100% direct connection. Yep. Another number to throw at you here.
Do you think?
Nope, we're gonna just bust past that one. So 300 large mammals died in the whole fire season.
Does that count
Most
people?
of them, doubtful. Actually, only 2 firefighters died, and they didn't die in the park fighting fires. They like died of, they said like kind of like nebulously, like they died of other reasons. And surrounding
like in a
areas.
helicopter or
They
something
died
like
of murder from fire nados. But yeah, so most of those mammals were elk, which is like, I wonder if just a whole herd of elk.
Yeah.
It was like 246 elk.
Shoot.
Oh, yeah, they're
Probably
all like,
all the babies.
oh no.
All the babies died.
But 9 bison, 4 mule deer, 2 moose. That's it.
That's not so bad, all things
Yeah.
considered.
Yeah.
And then
That's
a
pretty
bunch
amazing
of
that you
rodents,
even-
apparently.
Yeah, well,
But they bounced back crazy easily.
hard to count.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
which also, that's amazing to me that they counted so precisely the number of
Yeah,
mammals.
totally.
Yeah.
Whose job was that?
You guys know what else happened in 1988?
You are unreal.
Out of here with that.
Sorry, what?
Oh,
What?
God.
What's
My
wrong?
God.
I can't believe it. I haven't gone more than like, I don't know, 7 or 8 days in a row without getting freaking rickrolled.
Damn it.
Yeah, this is so
I didn't rickroll you. It was a true fact.
Oh,
I'm counting it.
God.
I read a little bit about like what small mammals do during wildfires, and oftentimes they're like, well, probably we'll be okay in the ground, and
Mhm.
most of the time they are.
That's my fact.
Until they get smoked out.
What?
Oh, never mind. I take it all back. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
La la la. Edit that out. That's the edit robot notice.
I think every time that I've gone, I've only done it twice, and both times I've gone last. I'm like, take it out,
Okay, all right.
Here's a real badass thing though on the animal front. This is a direct quote. The fires had no discernible impact on the number of grizzly bears in Greater Yellowstone. In fact, they like grazed more on the burned areas than the unburned areas, and they were just like, whatever, this.
It's barbecue.
No big deal, guys.
Yeah,
Like,
they know
neither
what
here
to
nor
do.
there. I'm the most fucking badass animal in North America. Don't worry about us in wildfires. Anyways, here's a really annoying fact. The largest of the fires, the North Fork fire, started when a man cutting timber in the Caribou-Targhee National Forest, just outside the park's western border, dropped his fucking cigarette.
Yeah.
So
There we go.
we came back around to smoking, I guess. But
That would never have happened if you'd been vaping.
yes, exactly.
Thank God for vapes, huh?
Yeah, thank God.
Oh,
Oh
God.
man, there's that guy chopping some wood and doing some sweet vape tricks.
Ripping cotton, as they say.
Ripping cotton. That pillowy cotton. Oh, no.
Fuck me.
Okay, guys, I only have a couple more of these facts, so really bear with me.
Really?
I feel like I'm boring you guys. No, okay, guys, here's a real good one. One of the fires burned into a thermal area, which ignited the sulfur from the thermal features and created clouds of poisonous gas.
Yeah.
And 7 firefighters were treated for inhalation of that poisonous gas,
Oh,
which sucks,
not
sorry
good.
guys. But still,
Whoa.
amazing. I couldn't find very much information on like fires
cool.
hitting thermal areas.
Yeah, because that's some of the most fascinating stuff that happens when wildfires hit stuff where like what?
What's
gonna happen?
And they like catch a coal mine on fire and it burns for 1,000 years.
Exactly.
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
So, but I mean, it like totally tore through Norris Geyser Basin, which is just like still a dope
Oh yeah,
geyser
no, this is
basin.
great.
Yeah.
Here's an idea, if I may be so bold.
Please.
Firenado movie goes into Yellowstone
Yeah.
and then like turns into gaseous cloud NATO
Fucked up,
and then
Julia.
Guys
gets
in
put
NATO.
out by a geyser.
Oh my god!
Oh! Yeah, no, they're like, we have to get the fire NATO to Old Faithful
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
at
usher it
exactly
gently.
11:45 p.m.
And like the whole community of Gardner, Montana bands together.
Yeah,
Oh.
just like blows really hard.
Right.
But everyone still respectfully stays on the boardwalks the
Yeah.
whole time.
Please stay on the boardwalks.
Please.
Yeah.
It's a simple rule.
I like
They
it.
have an awesome like little illustration.
We know exactly when Old Faithful's gonna go.
You gotta get it there.
Man, this is perfect.
Oh god.
5 stars.
Speaking of Old Faithful Inn didn't catch fire at all, despite being made completely out of lodgepole pine wood that was like super lacquered up, and like embers hit the roof of Old Faithful Inn. Didn't start on fire.
It's Old
Like
Faithful.
incredible.
Of course.
That's right.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's like my favorite spot in the whole park. Super awesome. Okay, now I'm gonna end on a couple really awesome, like actual real life announcements that happened in the park during the fire season. Here's one from July 30th. So like real heat of the season. We've had reports of elk and small mammals like rabbits feeding peacefully on unburned vegetation in the midst of smoke and burned over places.
Oh,
Isn't that adorable?
a little postcard announcement.
Yeah.
Guys, don't worry. Nature's beautiful.
It's fine. I'm getting cancer.
Here's a month later, a little bit different sort of feel. 2 escaped convicts tried to rent their stolen truck to the fire crew. Rangers arrested them. ... Bison have been rubbing parked helicopters overnight. Fencing has been ordered to protect the helicopter.
That's my headline.
Wild.
Like,
So-
those 2 things happened. One,
God.
these guys were like, you can't borrow our truck, but if you give us $50, you can have our stolen truck, and don't look up our driver's licenses. And what?
We
Yeah,
were
we're
never
wearing an orange
here.
jumpsuit. Yeah, well, that's the fashion now. And then the bison are fucking the helicopters. Somebody build a fence.
Oh God. Well, I think that's a good place to end for mine.
God bless you, Amy.
Bison's rubbing up on some helicopters.
Sorry, everybody.
Just happened.
I just accidentally played a little bit of Billy Ocean's Get Out of My Dreams, Get Into My Car, which also came out in 1988. Anyway, I didn't mean to. I was just watching the video a little bit because it's real good.
Put your computer on mute when you're on a podcast, huh? I can't believe it.
I do this for a living. All right, you guys. How do fires start? You start. How do fires start? Give me a reason.
Fuel.
No, just like the
Oh,
process. Like the
lightning.
Thing. Yeah, lightning is a big one.
Chain dragging on a gravel.
Sure. Let's just
Spark.
like human causes in general. So
Sure.
I'm gonna put human causes in a whole category. So we've
Oh.
got like lightning, human causes generally.
Yes.
So I'm gonna give you one human cause that I was surprised to find as my supplemental fact later. Now, Jessi, now you have to have the another way fires start. And don't worry, the easy ones have been taken. So it's not your fault that you don't have one on hand.
Landslide rocks.
Yes!
What?
Yes!
No!
Yes, that is one of the 3 weird ways that wildfires can
That's
start.
awesome. That's incredible.
Yeah, 10% of wildfires in Utah are started by rocks rubbing together.
Look at the big brain on Jessi.
Well, Jessi got to steal your thunder. So it's only
Oh,
from
man,
that.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, so
Holy fucking science, right?
so landslides, like rocks hitting other rocks, creating sparks, and then you start off a little brush fire, and that has happened a bunch of times, but pretty rare. But it happens. It happens a documented amount of time. The other rare but regular way wildfires start naturally is volcanoes. And you might think, like there's a fucking volcano.
Yeah.
Like that's
It's
my main
erupting.
concern. The
Yeah.
fact that there is now a fire is like, okay, yes, but also there's ash falling from the sky and like giant boulders and shit, and like the earth has opened up and is spewing like vomitous magma out upon us. So, but yes, that
Volcanoes.
magma,
So it's like-
of course, can start fires.
Is like Hawaii always on fire then?
I mean, I think that the areas around the active lava flows are pretty much not vegetated.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so that is a way. The other weird one that I could not believe that is a thing that actually happened. So, stop texting me, people. I'm on a podcast. I have a life outside of whatever business. Anyway,
You're gonna check it anyway.
I was putting it on mute.
Will you go back to the other weird one?
No, I think that was all very funny. So ever since there became a bunch of oxygen in the atmosphere and a bunch of carbon-rich organisms on land, fire is inevitable.
Yes.
And there's been lightning the whole time. So we have like examples of wildfire in the fossil record pretty much from the moment there was life on land. So it's always been a thing.
Okay.
But if you have a bunch of carbon-rich stuff, a fire can just start. If like you get the right amount of oxygen, but without too much airflow, what happens is anytime something is oxidizing, so this happens naturally, you have a carbon-rich compound that's made, like this happens with hay actually pretty frequently. If you have a bunch of hay in one place, that like it oxidizes, and when it oxidizes, it's just like these carbohydrates react with oxygen, and they break up a little bit, and they break up a little bit more, and every time that happens, it creates a little bit of heat, and if there's heat, then that actually increases the rate at which things oxidize, and if they oxidize more, then it creates more heat, and if they oxidize more, then it creates more heat, and that makes them oxidize more, which creates more heat.
Mm-hmm.
So
And-
is that why like a compost heap is warm on inside?
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
okay.
yeah, that is one of the reasons why. There's
Okay.
also bacteria are.
Yeah.
There was a hay fire on the highway last year,
Yeah,
and there was just a big semi full of hay, and they're like, "Oh, it's on fire!"
it happens.
Uh-oh.
It happens with hay a lot.
Yeah.
Like hay fires are a thing, but it can also happen naturally. Just like pine needles or something fall to the ground, and like what you have to have a very specific and weird mix of enough oxygen to keep the reaction going, but not so much airflow that the heat is being carried away. And
So they have to be kind of like
yeah. So it has to. So yeah, and it has to be
pine needle
yeah.
structure.
So that the oxygen get in
Yeah.
there, but like it slows down the airflow so that the heat doesn't radiate away, so that the heat can keep increases,
Huh.
and it keeps increasing and increasing and increasing until it just fucking turns to fire. It just lights on fire all by itself. And this is like spontaneous combustion is a thing that happens, and it's like
Right.
don't put oily rags in a bucket in your garage because they can catch on fire all by themselves. But the fact that it can happen naturally with stuff that's just made by nature, and that can start a wildfire, is like,
See,
It
that's
doesn't-
as scary as a
Yeah.
a fire tornado.
Yes.
Because that's like that. You
I
can
may have met
see
my
that.
I may have met my match. Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
Well,
yeah, so to speak.
Oh,
Ha-ha.
there's a pun in there.
Oh my goodness.
very deep. But there's nothing to say that a spontaneously combusted wildfire couldn't then go on to have a fire whirl. So
Yeah.
you can have both.
We're in combo mode here.
Yeah. And then also that somehow that happens and gets mixed with a sulfur plume and then it has to be reined in by the residents of Gardner, Montana to Old Faithful exactly up 1147.
This is a good movie.
Yeah, I've got like at least $50 to put into the Kickstarter.
We need Helen Hunt though.
And she is not gonna survive.
Die this time.
Is that the selling point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Helen
Will
Hunt is the
die.
sequel to Twister, Fire Whirl, in which Helen Hunt dies. Like that's the tagline. This time she dies. Good. So
Great.
that's the thing. I was just fascinated to know that there are four main ways, like natural ways that there are four natural ways that fire can start, and one of them was spontaneous combustion.
That's a
Oh,
good one.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Forgot about that whole thing.
Additionally, there have been multiple fires started, a human cause that shocked me, in which men, exclusively men, let's be honest, hit their golf ball into the rough, and then were hitting it out to try and get it back onto the green, and hit a rock, and then looked down to find that they were standing in the middle of a fire that they just started by hitting a rock with their titanium golf club. It has happened twice at one golf club. It's happened multiple times at one place, and they have to have like a rule now. They're like, don't do that.
Yeah. Maybe get some rock picking going on or something.
Yeah.
Different roughage.
Oh yeah, well no, I mean like you don't want to like water the thing that's not even a golf course.
Yeah.
So they like hit it into just straight up rocks.
No, it's
Like
like
grassy.
it's like a grassy area.
Oh, into the like okay.
And so
got
they
it.
can't really see what they're swinging at, and they like make a little spark, and then they come like, and then they like move along, and they look back, and there's a fire.
Where was that golf course located?
I can't remember.
The state? You don't remember the state?
I don't remember the state.
Oh, brother.
So they should make like
I closed the tab.
critics. They should make like only like certain advanced like what like if you're bad at golf you can't golf on this course because there's
It's fire danger.
They're a fire
Yeah.
hazard.
Or like
You're so
or
bad at
just,
golf,
like,
you're a fire
everybody gets like a
a free
fire
pickup. You just-
extinction.
a
They get
tiny
a fire
little,
extinction.
like a little like clip-on
Clip-on.
fire extinguisher.
Oh, I was
That would
thinking
be
you could
cute.
just take a free pass so you wouldn't have to hit it out of the rough.
Yeah.
Oh,
That
yeah.
sounds easy, right?
That.
They just
Okay.
have like
Or
a
just pick up
stack
your
of
ball.
like
I mean, I
every
don't think-
pass
yeah.
cards in the
Yeah.
rough.
Yeah. You just take a stroke and you move it
Yeah.
out of the
Right,
the grass so
Yeah,
that you
hit it.
don't and
Start
it was not
fires.
like one of the fires was pretty small, but the second one, when it happened again, was big enough that they were like, oh crap,
This is not
we
good.
actually have to tell people not to do that anymore.
Jeez. I think the ones that I don't think about are the exhaust pipes of cars when you're on the side, no parking on the side of the road and you're pulling off of the shoulder because the exhaust pipe is so hot.
Yeah, you don't really. Yeah, I had heard a stand-up comic one time say that he was selling a car to a guy, and they like took a little test drive, and then they came back and he was shutting the car, and he grabbed the exhaust pipe and was like, "Oh, that's hot!" And the guy was like, "Uh-huh."
Why was
Yes.
he grabbing the
Yes,
exhaust
sir.
pipe?
That's where the hot comes out.
Yeah, right? Weird.
Yeah.
Sounds like a dummy.
Yeah. Anyway,
Is it
we
my
can have
turn?
a second
Oh,
beer.
yeah.
This podcast is brought to you by beer from Big Sky Brewery. Oh, that perfect timing.
Oh, beautiful. Nice job, guys. I want to do it.
Big Sky Brewery, supporter of Holy Fucking Science. Supporter of science. They use science to make beer. Yeah. All kinds of science. And then somebody else uses science to make cans, and then they put those two things together into beer that's inside cans that you can buy at stores.
Most of their cans have animals on them.
And the stores are made from science.
The stores are also made from science.
Mm-hmm.
And they're cooled by science. The stores are cooled, and also the beers are cooled by science.
Their brewery is pretty close to our fire lab in town.
Yeah. It's
And
true.
they put on a heck of a music festival this last
nice.
weekend.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they do a lot, but the most important work they do is sponsoring Holy Fucking Science.
Yes, clearly. Is it my turn yet?
Thank you, Big Sky Brewery. It
Thank
is
you,
your
thank you.
turn.
Yay! I was really excited. When I was like invited to talk about wildfires, I'm like, what else is there to talk about except animals? Like,
Yeah.
what's gonna happen to all the animals? And so I
Apparently, the big ones are okay. They just
Yeah.
walked away.
It's instinctual for them to just they're like, oh, that's some noise and some smoke and I'm out of here.
Yeah,
So like
fires are loud.
they get really loud, and the big animals usually just walk out of there or run if they need to, but the ones that are in
It's
danger.
not like a Bambi
the
situation
babies.
where it's like, oh, it is a Bambi situation.
Well, the babies are the ones that are gonna.
Oh.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
wait, correct me if I'm wrong. Bambi was okay though, right?
Yeah, Bambi lived.
Bambi lived.
Yeah, the whole movie continued to be about Bambi.
So that's why it's called Bambi.
It's about him.
But like Bambi's mom.
Yeah, Bambi's mom
But
don't
no,
go,
no,
that's
fire.
years, I'm pretty
She
sure.
was shot.
But what about Bambi's dad?
He's like the macho
He
dude.
did die.
He
in
did die
fire.
under the fire. That's right. Oh.
Bambi's an orphan now.
He died so Bambi could live. Hank.
I feel that. I feel it, Bambi's dad.
Yeah, it was hardcore, man. Lots of crying.
Watching movies now
I haven't.
as a
I don't
parent
know
is
that
like
I've ever watched Bambi. Oh man, I can't handle anything anymore.
like anything.
I'll be watching like a stupid, vacuous TV crime drama, and it's like a baby got kidnapped, and
You're
I'm
like,
like,
no,
Nope.
no.
this show is dead to me. I'm never watching it
Don't
again.
give me nightmares. Like
I can't-
that's the stuff
baby
that I can do.
kidnapping?
Zombies,
Nope.
I can do.
Nope.
Yeah.
I watch
nothing
Criminal
baby.
Minds like every night before bed.
Oh,
Well,
no.
yeah.
I can do that as long as it doesn't involve a kid.
They often do,
They often
but
do,
that's
I
the
know.
thing. As soon as, and if you ever have a child, it becomes. It's like I'm so fundamentally different now.
Yeah.
It's been 9 months, and I'm like, I can't walk past a baby without being like, excuse me, I have to touch your child. Like.
What are you like making sure that they're real?
No, I just want
Are
to
you
them.
faking
No.
this parenting?
No, I just want to make,
I
make
know
heart
that.
noises on their
I
cheeks.
know that, and
Yeah, it's super weird.
Baby should just freak me
I
out
turned
more.
into like
Yeah.
John tells the story. The first time I met my first nephew, I was like saw his beautiful cherubic face and I said, "Yep, that's a baby." And that's about how I felt. And now, like, I feel
Yeah.
so bad because if somebody said it about my baby, I would hit them in the face with a bottle of beer.
I think that's
Whoa.
probably what I said to you.
Yeah, don't say that.
There he is.
There he is.
That's the baby. You did it. You made it.
He's wearing clothes. So wildfires,
Yeah.
babies, don't mix because a lot of times the babies aren't strong enough to like to get away. I mean, that's where you're gonna see like a lot of them when they get like old or sick or babies. And sometimes the baby deer, you know, they do have the natural instinct to run, but sometimes they'll just freeze. Like there's been like accounts where they watched little, I don't know, no one really cares about mice, but I care about mice and cats.
Well, sure.
But like cotton rats and wood rats, like they would just be like,
And it was freeze.
and just freeze, and then the fire would be like, I'm still
I'm
coming.
gonna turn you into a
And
rat kebab.
They would get a little charcoal and
They make tiny little fire
yes.
bunkers.
Oh my gosh! Well,
little
actually, so what they do is they burrow. So almost all the little like small burrowy animals, they'll just go right into the ground and just like
Do
hang
they
out
go
there.
into a pre-existing burrow or?
Usually, yeah. They'll just go into the burrow, and then as long as there's 2 exits or entrances or whatever you want to call it, then they'll do just fine.
Like that won't like suck all the oxygen out or
Exactly.
something.
Yeah. So they'll and then they'll even go into, which I thought was cool. They'll go into like a rotten log, and you think like a rotten log's old, sitting there, nice and dry, and it may burn on the outside, but the inside is nice and damp and cool, and so it's like one of the safest places to go. So if you're stuck in a fire and you can't move more than 2 miles an hour, just crawl into a rotten log. Just do that.
Good tip.
Yeah.
Hot
What
tip.
if I kill a bison and crawl inside of it?
Uh,
I bet that work.
I bet
like
the
tom-tom
lanolin
system, but
in the
reversed.
wool-
Smell delicious.
I think it smells really gross. Like
I think
yeah,
that's
like wool burning. Yeah.
yeah, no.
Is that
I
what
think,
you're
I
saying?
don't think that it would protect you from that heat.
I
I think
mean-
it'd get really hot.
yeah, well, I
I
have
think
to
that you would,
breathe.
like,
It'd be hard to
sizzle.
breathe inside of the
Yeah.
bison.
Yeah, not
Yeah.
breathable.
Yeah, I wouldn't suggest cutting
It's
open
better
a
than nothing.
bison
Oh,
and crawling. I mean, just run away if you have time to like
Yeah, if I
Like,
have time to
through
kill
a
and
Yeah.
kill and slaughter a
kill,
bison,
and
yeah.
then like
Yep,
yep,
I agree.
just run away.
But I'm really like running. It's not really
You
what I
could
was built
probably
for.
walk.
2 miles an hour.
wait, guys, I
2
have a
miles.
story that I didn't tell from my notes, which was that this one dude witnessed a guy and his dog looking super charred walking aimlessly through a meadow during the 1988 fires, and they like picked him up and put him in their truck and like got him to first aid. Turns out they had been taken completely surprised by the fire,
Yeah.
and he managed to like jump in the creek with his dog and sit
Wow.
underwater as the
Yeah.
fire literally like jumped the river over top of them.
I have heard of that before, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were okay. He and his dog.
That little poo.
Oh,
Good job,
man.
everybody.
Yeah.
okay.
Every time you bring up the fire again, if you go back to 1988.
I don't know if you've heard about the fire of 1988.
All right. So Amy, you were talking about like the forest was fine. Nationally,
Yeah.
Yellowstone was fine afterwards, and actually it's a normal occurrence. Fires happen, and there's a bunch of different kinds of fires. Like there's like the ones on the ground, and there's ones that go on the treetops. But every once in a while, there's one that just like kills the entire thing. Like it's from the top to the bottom, and everything is destroyed, and it seems pretty catastrophic. But actually, those are actually really good for the ecosystem because the ash layer creates all this fertilizer, and then all like they're sick or they're dead trees, like they're really injured or they're dead. But they're perfect places for bugs to come in and just start chowing down on all the leftovers, which brings in woodpeckers. The woodpeckers, they just have like big feasts and then like create these little holes, and then it creates like condos for birds. Like over 200 species of birds can come in right afterwards, and they just make these little.
I've heard that
like,
there's a species of woodpecker that has specific camouflage to charred tree trunks.
Oh,
And I
that's
don't.
fun.
I read that
Whoa.
very briefly, and I
Yeah.
don't. That's all I know.
Okay.
That's everything I got.
Okay. Okay.
Take it though.
It's
Yeah.
called the black
Woodpecker.
woodpecker.
Charbroiled
The charcoal pecker.
Black. It should be
Oh,
like
God.
the fire pecker.
The fire pecker.
Yeah.
So after the woodpeckers come in and then the birds come in, then little like squirrels and chipmunks and mice will come in, and then the ash is growing new vegetation on the ground, and so then the herbivores come in, which bring in predators, and then there you go, you have a brand new ta-da! Yay,
So-
animal sanctuary again.
Go for it.
Love
Wonderful.
it. Love it.
Yeah, and
but then-
Andy lives a happily ever after.
Fine, doing fine. And actually, there's reports that say that all the animals that do survive the wildfire, they procreate prolifically.
Ooh.
Quoted.
Yeah, that's like at the end of the movie Speed.
What's that one again?
Did that movie come out in 1988?
No,
Yeah.
No, it's
it's in the
good.
90s. What did you just say, Julia?
I don't know anymore.
Anyway, because you had a big like adrenaline moment, and then afterward, it's
You
like,
just get right to boning.
thanks for simplifying for me.
Well, no need to dance around it. We're talking about Keanu Reeves.
1994.
Oh,
No,
much later.
Yeah. Okay, so I have another cool thing. Forest fires affect water too, the rivers. So you would think they would just kind of leave them alone, but actually all the sediment can make it pretty toxic for fish and other aquatic animals. But sometimes all the sediments can be just the right thing, and so all the insects will come and eat on all the new nutrients in the water, and then that will create more food for the fish. And sometimes it makes rivers bigger because there's less trees, like the trees all died, and so they're not sucking up all the water, and so more water will stay in the rivers, and so it'll become bigger and bigger and bigger.
And like, I imagine that it kills enough trees in some circumstances that, like the erosion changes.
Yeah,
so you get
it
rid
can
of a bunch
change
of
the
trees,
shapes
so it
of the
changes shape
rivers.
of the river.
Yeah,
give
yeah.
the river a chance to anastomose.
Is that what?
Fancy.
It's one of my favorite words.
Good lord.
How many times do you just like throw that in a conversation?
It's like, wait a second, there's a chance for me to say
Anastomose.
anastomose.
Does that mean just change the river shape?
Anastomosing is when a river like wanders across a plain over time.
Isn't that like, what's that called when it bows? Oxbows?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let me look it up and make sure I'm
Is
using
that
it
the
right.
scientific word for oxbowing?
Anastomosis. Oh my goodness. That's not what I'm looking for. Really.
Great audio content.
It's edited. Anastomosing rivers. That's yes. Whatever.
You didn't get it right?
I did.
Hey!
It's like a braided river. It's like when there's a bunch of it all sort
Little
of.
bits go across the other bigger bit.
I guess that
Cool.
could happen
Yeah.
after wildfire, maybe. Mostly just
Yeah.
reroutes.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's the root
Fluvial
systems
is a
aren't
really
intense.
good word too.
Oh, love that one.
Fluvial.
Is that a similar word?
No, that means like related to rivers or something.
Oh.
It's just a
Yes,
good
I think
word.
that's correct.
It's just something real.
Cool.
How's everybody doing? The thing that I thought that
Yeah.
that I thought you were going to talk about was after the rodents come up, when all of the underbrush has gotten.
Yeah. So, I have a couple more things. Yeah. Okay. So, one of the cool things that you see when wildfire is coming through is birds of prey. Hawks are mostly hawks are on the forefront of the fire, and they're like scanning the ground for all the poor little rodents that are like fleeing the fire. They're like, got you now. But they won't actually like actively hunt. They're just like brought to the fire there, and then they'll wait until the fire goes away, and then they'll come and pick off all the ones that are no longer hidden.
There's nothing.
There's
nothing to hide under.
Exactly, all their camouflage is shot. Like they're just
Whoa.
Yeah, and then you get a bunch of just chubby little hawks.
yes.
Chubby hawks. They got plenty of food.
Yeah, and that's when you see like the bear coming through.
Yeah.
And all the whatever
So cool.
happens.
All the most badass
The leftovers.
animals. They're just
Yeah.
like, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're like in a sense scavenging, but they're not really stooping to that level.
Yeah, they would never.
So we're dealing with with all of our animals, we're dealing with all of this smoke.
Sure,
So
yeah.
so much smoke coming in our valley, and smoke is really bad for us, for all animals, because it interferes.
Yeah.
It does. It's really irritating, and it's worse for mammals. Do okay, like it irritates us, and we have a couple of our younger animals have like weepy eyes and little stuffy noses, which is never good. But what really affects is our birds. So birds have this really cool respiratory system where they're breathing basically twice as efficiently as we are, and so they're bringing in tons of the particulates, and they can just. That's what's gonna get the birds, not the actual flames, because they can fly away. But if they're doing really active stuff, then they're gonna be breathing in more, and they're gonna get, big time respiratory. The inflammation is gonna cause an infection, and then they'll die from respiratory infections. So right now, all of our birds they stay inside with an air purifier.
Aw,
Oh,
good birds.
poor guy.
They get lots of toys. They're fine. They're fine.
Yeah, they're having like a little spa day.
Right?
Oh,
like for
a little
Take it,
spa month,
exactly.
yeah.
Taking the summer off. Everyone else has to work twice
hot out
hard
there
because the
anyway.
birds are taking the summer off.
All right, everybody. I
That
have
it?
to go take care of a baby. Thank you for
Me
hanging
too.
out with me on this episode of Holy Fucking Science, which was filmed by Caitlin Hoffmeister. Stefan was on sound.
Yeah.
It's edited by one of our great staff at SciShow. You can
Thanks.
watch us on a live stream if you're a Patreon patron of SciShow. So it's patreon.com/SciShow. All patrons get access to the live stream. Thank you to everybody who is watching on the live stream. Hello.
Thanks, patrons.
And through this podcast, I have been Hank Green.
I'm Jessi Knudsen Castaneda. Wait.
Wait,
You
wait.
said I have
Yeah.
been
Through the
Hank Green?
podcast, through the whole podcast. It's what I say
have
every
been
time.
and
It's
am
just what I
going to
do.
be Jessi
It's the
Knudsen
thing-
Castaneda.
I'm Julia Mays still.
And once upon a time, I was Amy Darling.
This has been Holy Fucking Science.
Good job. Did I peek on that?
Oh,
I
don't worry
yelled
about it.
really
That's
loud.
good.
And
Oh yeah, I yelled
It
a
doesn't
couple
matter.
times.
Firewall. I gotta go.
Yeah, I'm into this
It's
movie.
15.
Yeah, seriously.
You guys did great.
Thank you, everybody. That was super.
That was
super
fun,
fun.
Lisa.
Very fun.
Thanks. Do you want this at your house?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Your
thank you.
jelly.
Hey!
Thank you. Do you want this at your house?
Not just in here.
It's weird to
It's
like
just a prop on
see
the
every time I
podcast,
take
yeah.
a call. You guys are so good.
That's so fun.
That was fun. That was very
I
interesting.
love it.
Yeah, that was.